A lot of us were never taught how to run, we just run. And that's fine, but sometimes as we start to increase our mileage, we can start to pick up little aches and pains and injuries due to bad habits in our running form. Well, the good news is a few simple tweaks can make a huge difference. If we learn to run more efficiently, it will ultimately make us a faster runner, and who wouldn't want that? But also less prone to injuries as well. There's no one size that fits all with running form. Everyone is unique, different body types, different strengths and weaknesses that will affect how we run. My running form itself isn't perfect, but it's something I've worked on so much over the years to now I'm quite proud of it, but I'm still making improvements. So today we're going through the technique, basics, and some things that you can do on your next run to help improve your running form. The first thing we're chatting about is cadence. Cadence, quite simply, is the number of steps you take per minute. Most experienced runners will have a cadence somewhere between 170 and 190. Now, newer runners will often have a cadence much lower than this, around about 150 to 160. So if that's you, you'll most likely benefit by trying to increase it. By raising our cadence, our feet will be in contact with the ground for less of a time. There'll be less impact coming back through our body, causing those injuries. Now, most modern watches, most Garmin's, most Coros's, most Polar, whatever you're using, you will be able to record and see this data in your app of choice, and you definitely can in Strava depending on which one you're using. So if you're unsure, then check that out in the app and just go on a nice steady run and see what kind of figure you are running at. So how are we going to go about trying to improve it and raise it up? The first thing is using a metronome app. Back in the day, I had to clip one on to my shoulder and listen to it as it beated away. It was kind of, I think it was a musician's metronome. You can still get those if you want to, but most modern ways of doing this, you're going to get a metronome app on your phone, and you can set that at the beats a minute and run along in time with the beat as it's clicking away like that. You can also set a metronome on most modern Garmin watches as well and just run along to the beat that your watch is making. And on top of that, you can also add a data field to your watch as well and see in live real time the cadence that you're running at. And then again, you can try and focus on that with your metronome app and just make sure you're running at the target cadence that you're going for. A couple of other options here. The first one, if you are a Spotify customer, then Spotify has some dedicated playlists at different beats a minute, 165, 170, 180, etc. Just put that in the search bar up at the top and then listen to some music as you run along that's been set to that exact metronomic beat. The last thing I want to chat about here is strides. Now, strides is quite simply 20-second bursts of speed, and it's really hard to run these with bad running form, but it also gets us to increase our cadence up to a higher level as well. This just gets your body used to moving more efficiently over the ground and turning your legs over a little bit quicker, which you then can translate into your regular speed running as well. And they also help to get us a little bit stronger. So there's so many bonuses by putting some strides in. I'd recommend putting these after your easy run during the week at some point, just once a week. It will really help improve your running form and your strength as well. Then a final little tip here, if you are running around about 150 beats a minute, say you're more of a beginner runner, don't try and jump all the way up to 180. It will be too much on your body. Just try and chip away with this over time. I say recommend about 5 beats a minute chunks at any one time. Right, let's move on to chat about posture. Now, as we run, as our foot hits the ground, we want to make sure our head, shoulders, hips, and feet are all stacked up in a nice straight line with a forward lean that's coming from the ankles and not from the waist. This allows us to benefit from gravity that will help to propel us forward as we run. We want to be running with nice relaxed shoulders, not all hunched over like that. I really also like this analogy, which I learned from my running form coach, Shane Benzie. We'll link to his details down below, which is imagine you're running with some crisps or some potato chips, if you're a different part of the world from the UK, in your hands, and you don't want to crush them. You want nice relaxed hands. You don't want to run with loads of tension in your hands there. You just want to be protecting those crisps. We also want to make sure our arms are not crossing the center line as we run. So imagine running, say, towards the camera, almost like I am here, with a nice line drawn through the body. We want to make sure our arms are not crossing over like this, which we do see quite a lot of people doing. We just don't want to be losing loads of excess energy, wasting loads of energy, moving our trunk and our torso around like this. Save energy and use that to propel yourself forwards instead. So how are we going to go about improving our posture? Well, the first thing I'd recommend, and I did this so much when I started running, is to make sure you stand up tall and fall forwards into your run. And don't worry, it is going to make sense. Start standing up straight and then stop and start a few times. Start your run just by falling into your run. Just lean from the ankles into your run and start running. This gets the body used to being in that nice forward lean position. No need to do this on absolutely every run you're going on, but maybe just when you're trying to improve your running form, once or twice a week will be really good. Just stop, start maybe 4 or 5 times just as you get going. Now, another way to visualize this, I see a lot of these one-wheel scooters around London. And again, they lean forward to go forwards. As they're slowing down, they lean back. That's the same sort of visualization that we want when we're starting running. Leaning from the ankles, lean forwards into it, and then you can start running. We also want to be checking in with our running form cues as well. Things we want to think about as we're running. Have we got a nice high head position, or our eyes looking forward to the horizon, nice relaxed shoulders, running tall? And again, just think about these things. Eyes up, relaxed shoulders. Am I running tall? Again, most modern Garmin's allow you to set different alerts for this, custom alerts that come up on your watch just to check in. Eyes up, relaxed shoulders, running tall. Just think about that as you're running along. And then finally, we want to work on improving our core strength. Like I said earlier, we don't want to be wasting loads of energy here. How can we improve our core? Just very basic things. Dead bugs, bridges, planks, side planks. Stronger core means we'll hold that upright position for longer. So many people's form collapses towards the end of races, the end of half marathons, and marathons especially. Everything is getting very tired and fatigued. The stronger our core, the better running form we're going to be having towards the end of a race, the better we're going to be running overall. Right, next up, we're talking foot placement and landing. So with our foot placement, where do we want to be landing? Well, ideally underneath our center of mass. As we've just talked about in our posture there, we're going to make sure everything is nicely in a line, and we don't want to be overstriding out in front of us, as this will be creating that braking force, which is what we really don't want to be doing. There's been so much debate about heel striking specifically over the years, if it's something we want to be avoiding. Where should our foot be landing? Should I forefoot strike, midfoot strike, or heel strike? Myself, I'm a midfoot striker. I believe that's the best way to move, but it really doesn't matter as much as we used to think it did, as long as we're landing nicely underneath our center of mass. Some elite runners, Charlotte Purdy, one of the UK's best ever marathon runners, runs with a heel strike, but what brings all elite runners together is, I say, they're landing nicely underneath that center of mass. Now, I would say if you want to change the way you move, if you are a heel striker, you want to become a bit more of a midfoot striker, then it's something I really would urge people not to concentrate on too much, because a lot of the time it can cause people to overcompensate and end up running on your tiptoes, which really isn't a good way to be landing. So there's lots of things we can do to help this transition naturally if you do want to be running with more of that midfoot landing. First thing I'd say here is to shorten your stride a little bit and increase our cadence. This will naturally lead to our foot landing nicely underneath our center of mass. Again, something I used to do loads when I started running is to practice some barefoot running on the grass, or potentially, if you live in a more coastal area, on the beach, a nice sandy area. Now, why I find this really fascinating is because a lot of people will run along with a heel strike, take the shoes off, run on a nice soft surface. They will then naturally be running with more of a midfoot strike because they don't have that huge lump of foam and shoe underneath them to protect them from landing in this really sort of not very natural way. Now, if you're not used to this can put quite a bit of strain on those lower leg muscles. So only do this for some short bursts, just running at your natural, easy running pace, maybe something like 4 by 30 seconds, just to practice this. Again, we can do this at the beginning of a run, at the end of a run, finish in a nice grassy area. This also helps to increase our proprioception, the amount of feedback we're getting from the ground up into the body, into the brain as well. Again, modern running shoes, running in these massive foam things on our feet, we just don't really know what's going on out there, and our brain doesn't really like it. 2 other little things that we can add in here as well: hill reps. Now, believe me, hill reps are such a good thing to be putting into our routine. Not only does it build a lot of strength, it promotes a faster cadence, but it also really helps encourage landing underneath that center of mass as well. It's quite hard to run up a hill overstriding. So again, put these into your routine, maybe once every couple of weeks, do some hill reps. Doesn't have to be much, just something like 4, 5, 6 by 60 seconds up the hill and a nice slow jog back down. And then finally, drills, practicing these movement patterns of running and correct landing. Some high knees, some butt kicks, simple stuff that we can put into our weekly routine. Potentially do these before one of your speed sessions. Now, we've talked quite a lot in this video all about cadence. So if you want to learn a little bit more detail about cadence, I'll link to my dedicated video all about cadence up there. So go and check that video out next. That's it, guys. Keep on working hard, keep on done, and I'm sure you become a much better, faster, stronger, happier runner overall with all of these tips. That's it, guys. We'll see you in the next one.